Hello, U.S. History. I'm Sam, and my group members are Rowan and also Rowan. This will be a rhetorical analysis of our chosen document, Strictures upon the Declaration of the Congress at Philadelphia, published in 1776. A Loyalist rebuttal to the Declaration of Independence. Said Loyalist is one Thomas Hutchinson. He was a businessman, historian, and politician who held several public offices in Massachusetts throughout his career. A career which he originally spent advocating for colonial rights and opposing taxation before notably shifting his opinions and becoming an outspoken and contested Loyalist, eventually being exiled to Britain. To provide some brief historical context, Hutchinson's rebuttals were, of course, written in response to the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence was written in response to, first, increased military presence following the 7 Years' War. Incidents like the Boston Massacre specifically spurred revolutionaries. Also, the economic sanctions imposed to pay for the war, like the Sugar and Stamp Acts. These combined with the heavily controversial Proclamation of 1763 shifted common sentiments in the colonies to generally regard British ministry as unjust and their rulings as infringements upon their liberty. The emblematic ideological clash between Loyalists and Patriots, the same clash exemplified by this document, is that between Enlightenment values and strict utilitarian ones. Patriots saw a destiny and a duty in colonial independence, while Loyalists, like Hutchinson, saw an unwinnable war waged with an integral ally. The rebuttals were addressed directly to Lord North, this nice-looking guy, who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain at the time, but it was also published anonymously for the eyes of the public, intended for the ears of the colonists, like two friends gossiping at a party, Hutchinson and the king giggling in the corner pretending they don't know the colonists can hear them. The textual audience was the Prime Minister, but the actual audience was the colonists, specifically in Massachusetts. Hutchinson's purpose for writing his rebuttals was to ally himself with Britain and discredit the patriots seeking independence from what Hutchinson believed was the true monarch. Although he was born in Boston, Hutchinson firmly believed that it was in the best interest of the colonies to remain part of Britain. The source itself is formatted by directly quoting points from the Declaration and following each with a response. The responses largely fall under three categories. First, he either makes the point that the grievances stated in the Declaration are untrue or insubstantial. He makes this point of the economic grievances and the more abstract ideological ones. He also emphasizes the fact that the delegates of the convention are Virginian and thusly do not fairly represent the interests of the colonies. And finally, he describes that the ideological grounds of the Declaration as frivolous, having no observed, tangible impact on people's lives, and are surely not worth fighting a war over. Now for some more specific rhetorical analysis, we've pulled some quotes. I dare say, my lord, that if there has ever been an instance of any laws lying longer than necessary before the king's pleasure has been signified, it has been owing to the inattention in some of the servants of the crown, and that upon proper application any grievance would have been immediately redressed. Here, Hutchinson is taking the colonists' claim that the king is inattentive to their grievances and passing it off as a failure of his agents, using dismissive language to undercut the colony's cause for seeking independence. You'll notice that Hutchinson's rhetoric is dismissive like this throughout, and it's pretty effective. 30 or 40 additional officers in the whole continent are the swarms which eat out the substance of the boasted number of 3 million people. To refute the colonists' claim that the king has sent military officers that are displacing the people, Hutchinson is using sarcasm to mock the colonists and their overstatement of the king's forces. These, my lord, would be weighty charges from a loyal and dutiful people against an unprovoked sovereign. Never was there an instance of more consummate effrontery. In this case, effrontery refers to insolent or impertinent behavior. Hutchinson is openly condemning the colonists' attitude toward the crown, and while living in Britain under the protection of the king, he feels even more justified in throwing rocks from a glass house. The language in this excerpt is blatantly provocatory. And finally, I'm going to do some reflections. It's vital to remember that At the time, the Declaration of Independence was highly controversial, and the colonies were divided between those who were patriots, those who viewed themselves completely as British citizens, and everyone in between. In learning about the Revolutionary era, it is common to imagine all colonists solely as the freedom-seeking zealots and heroes we celebrate as the founders of our nation. But this is a distortion of the past and the reality of that time. These rebuttals prove, if anything, that there are more nuances of colonial history and politics, and the people who remained loyal to Britain but saw their worlds turned upside down by a revolution they opposed. It shows us that every war, every revolution, everything we study in history is inseparable from the interests of everyday people, with a spectrum of interests, values, and experiences. And here's the citation for our source. Thank you.